Here we are. So welcome everyone. My name is Kim Macleod from Indie Authors World, and here we have the very lovely Dr. Well, we'll give you your full title this evening then. Dr. Lydia Anne Mitchell, going to celebrate the launch of this new book. And for some reason, my video seems to be reversing things. Hopefully that should come round the right way when we're actually on the recording. So we want to talk to you a little bit, Lydia. So welcome first of all. Thank you for making it all the way from Patagonia.
The wonders of internet are really great that way. It's great.
They are indeed. Communication across the internet, and we're going to be talking about communication across other spheres.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So what I wanted to kind of start off with was just asking you a little bit about your background, to set the scene for people here who might not know you at all and might not have heard about your book or your work. So your background though is more in science than in sort of personal development. So tell us a little bit about what you were, where your career started and what you were doing.
I'm Australian, and I got an undergraduate in chemistry, microbiology, and went on to do my doctorate in chemistry at the university in Carnegie-Mellon in Pittsburgh. And I really, when I was young, put it this way, to start back at the beginning, I saw auras and things like that. But when I realized that other people didn't see them, I stopped seeing them. And then I went on a pretty scientific path and pretty straightforward. I loved the science I was doing because I was looking at the molecular level of molecules. So I could actually look down at the atoms. And I did this by putting samples in a superconducting magnet and then radiating them with radio frequencies, which caused the energy levels in the atoms to flip, and I would measure the flip. And from that, I can determine what compound it was, but also the shape of the compound, because the environment nearby, all the energy was affected by the environment nearby. And so I studied my hormone peptide, bradykinin, to actually try and work out what shape it had, because the biological activity was dependent on the shape as well as what was in it, the charge and the atoms. So it was actually very fascinating, and you needed millions of dollars, these machines. So it wasn't something I could do at home. So I was actually very grateful for all that. But what happened was I did a postdoc after that in, I do want to say one other thing, just for an education point of view, is that my technique was is still called nuclear magnetic resonance. And people know that as MRIs, because the MRI is like a child of the technique that I used, only they put the people in the magnet and they measure the water frequency. In other words, the frequency organ and environment it's in. So that's really quite fascinating. But anyway, that's the way that most people know about this technique. But what it did for me was it got me used to very comfortable with the concept of frequencies, of unseen frequencies, of the effect they can have on what we call matter. And so I saw it in a different way. And then I did a postdoc in Carlsberg laboratories in Denmark, in Copenhagen. So before that, I was a very strict scientific type. But then I worked 80 hours a week and I got incredibly sick, surprise, surprise. And like a lot of people, when they get really sick, it changes who they are. They have time to think about what's important. They have time to shift in who they are, and they have to investigate how to get better. And so all that happened to me. And then I found out you were supposed to drink water. What a surprise. I ended up going to a naturopath. My God, because my technician at the time, she said, well, have you been to this and this naturopath? I'm like, what's that? So I had no concept of my body or health or anything else. And being young, I could get away with it. So, but anyway, till then. And so that shifted my life somewhat. It opened the door, so to speak. And then I did a postdoc in California. Now in California, we know the door's going to get opened. So there, I had wonderful instruments, lots of money, it's really good. But I was doing yoga at home one day on a mat by myself. And I suddenly felt like somebody was stabbing me in the back. And it was like, look, there's nobody around. That's sort of strange. And then a vision came to me of a past life, a war situation. And that was the beginning of me investigating past lives. By myself. I've never gone to anybody. I've never needed to. I just really ask God and the universe for information on, say, a certain person that I have issues with this lifetime and ask what the connection is with the past. And so I did that for quite a few years. And when I was doing that, I started to realize that there was no time, because that it's a construct, because I was talking to me in other past lives, trying to convince them to get over the issues so I could be with the people that I was in this lifetime. So I was trying to do therapy with them. And so it got a little complicated, but not that bad. But it was at one point when I first started, I was like, oh, this is, I don't know about this, I'm making this up. But then I thought, if I think that way, I will never go forward. I mean, if I don't trust what I'm doing, I'm not going to go anywhere. Yeah. And one of the things with the past life experiences that I really realized was the emotion. It wasn't only the vision of seeing it, it was the feeling deep down of that experience. Yeah. And it was funny, I had this consultant actually for chemistry, for my job, because I was still a chemist at this time, working with the MRIs and NMR. And this consultant came from the East Coast, and one day I noticed he had this book about past lives. And I had already processed a past life with him. And I looked at the book and I said, oh, you believe in that? And he said, well, it's good. I said, well, we've had a past life together. And he just looked at me and he said, what did I do, murder you? And I said, yeah. I was like, wow, he was pretty advanced. We got on really well this time.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you never murdered you this time, right?
But it was such a surprise, because till then we'd always been strict science, this experiment, that experiment, and I'd never broached any other subjects with him. Yeah. And so it's sort of funny. But after a while, I decided that everything I need to know, I have in this lifetime. And I haven't really gone back anymore. I mean, I've done the experiment, and it was interesting, and I'm done.
You're done.
So yeah, I'm done.
Wow.
So
So we'll draw breath there, because I think I can see some faces sitting here, and they're all like, wow. Because that whole experience, I suppose, like you said, from starting off at a young age and seeing auras and having a sense that there's something else there, but because people don't, and you close it down. And I've spoken to so many people who have been in similar situations, have, as a child, were aware of things. It wasn't validated by somebody else, so they just kind of went, oh, right, we're not going to talk about that. And then to go through all that sort of, that the kind of hard facts of science, isn't it? That's the bit of, we'll stick in these things and what we know and the experiments that we can do. But because of that, to be able to see different frequencies and the impact of things, and then to come back round to having this having somebody poking you in the back, or kind of that's that's then a real physical a physical manifestation of something that you then go, okay, what's happening? And I can totally understand. I've had my own experiences of hearing people speak to me. That they're not there. When you hear your name being called over and over again, and you're looking around and there's nobody there. And there's these things that you then start to say, well, can you tell somebody else that this is happening? Because, people are going to look at you when they're saying, oh, so you're hearing voices then, and there's then yes, I have it. Yeah. And totally with you on the past life stuff. Have also kind of gone down that road myself in the past, and actually got a real understanding of some of the things that have happened to me in this lifetime, and why, what the messages are, what I'm experiencing this time round. So I think it's all fascinating. I love it. And I love that you're coming to share your experiences. And because you have had that sort of science grounding, that people can, when you can explain things about different frequencies and energies, then from a science perspective, then we know that there's far more to the world than most of us will ever see.
Or choose to see, or want to see, or need to see.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is there's all sorts of information that comes to us. So I wanted to ask then a little bit of, so when you first started to experience this sort of visit and communication, because we're going to kind of move into a little bit around the angels and what they've been communicating with you. But when you first had that experience of somebody feeling that there was a presence physically there, how did that develop? Were you more aware of, or did you have more physical experiences, or was it then the kind of mental communication? How did kind of this kind of communication start to develop more with you?
Well, it started actually on a pretty physical level. When I was in California, I took a class in kinesiology testing, which is muscle testing. And it was for testing myself, not other people. And I was probably the only one in the class that actually used it. But I used that, being a scientist, I still wanted a yes-no answer for everything. And so with the muscle testing, I could ask a question, I'd get a yes-no answer. And of course, as a scientist, this made me very happy. And that it also got me to say, well, who's answering? I mean, I'm asking, but who's telling me the answer here? And so it started me on another path again of talking to my guides. I called them my guides. I asked them what they wanted to be called, and they said my guides. And I did lots of experiments. Being a scientist, I always have to check everything to make sure that I think it's correct. And so I would do experiments with the kinesiology, see if it was real, if I could get real answers and all this sort of thing. I could tell you stories about some of the things that came out. that were really amazing. And so with all that happened, I don't think we've got time for that now, but all that happened, I decided it was true. I was talking to my guides. This was a way of doing it that I was comfortable with, because there was a yes-no physical response. And I learned that you had to ask in a certain way. There's all sorts of restrictions to have it be accurate. And so that shifted me that bit further again to speaking with, quote unquote, the non-physical. And then what happened was I did it too much and they didn't like it. They said, figure it out yourself. And so I would get, bad answers or no answer or contradictory answer. It was like, no, you do it. You're becoming too dependent. And so I stopped doing it with the kinesiology. And over time, I started to do it just directly, telepathically. So that really started in 2000. It's hard to know when it really started. The second book I wrote in 2019, and it was real clear. It was from angels. It was from these entities, non-physical, where they're from. All that was clear. My first book, I actually may have, sort of guidance in that as well, but I never did it directly, clearly, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And so the second book, it was like direct, clear, this is what it is, this is what you're writing, this is what you're doing. And so then as to how I talk to them, it's telepathic, it's almost instant. And sometimes I see a vision, that what I see as the person or the entity or the soul. And other times I just get the message. I think I'm an automatic writer. I just write. And I hardly need to edit, or I hardly need to do much to it. It's just automatic. And so I think that's one of the ways that I transmit the information is by writing.
Yeah. And there's a lot of writers actually joined us tonight, and writers of lots of different genres. And the one thing that I often hear when people are saying that they're writing and they're in flow is that they feel that the writing is flowing through them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just what you've had is perhaps more of a question and answer and a slightly different perspective on how that writing is coming to you from, because you've got, particularly these four we're going to talk about tonight, that, channeling stuff. But I know a lot of the people who are here will recognise we talked to them, they talk about the writer's experience, and that kind of energy just coming through and helping them share. So who knows who may well be helping them to write their own stories too. So maybe we could ask and tune in and see if there's any more help that we could be giving to some of the people as they're writing their books. So I wanted to kind of pick up then a little bit on you. So you have these four angels, these four entities who have told you that they are in the Heart Nebula. So can we explain to the audience so where, the Heart Nebula is an actual physical location?
Excuse me. Yes, it is. It's according to the internet, it's a physical location, and according to NASA and all the studies, it's got a numerical number as well, obviously, but it is also called the Heart Nebula, and there are photos of it, and it looks like a heart. But being a nebula, it's not like Earth. It's not in one piece. It's always changing. It's a flux. It's a nebula. The energy is always just changing and flowing. It's in our galaxy. It's only 7.5 light years away, which, you know, seeing the galaxy, our galaxy, I think, is like 100 light years wide. It's not too far away. Not that we could go there easily, but you know, physically. But yeah, so it is a physical location that has been acknowledged. I was guided to talk about the Heart Nebula, and I don't know whether the idea was that because it's called the Heart Nebula, and right now on Earth we're focusing on the heart and shifting, that's why they picked that nebula as a location for me to focus on. That's what I sort of assumed, because it's in alignment with what's happening now on Earth, hopefully. So that's but it's an acknowledged nebula.
Okay. And that, I suppose, and that takes us into the messages that they've been sharing with you and the question answers, because you have 4 very different entities, 4 different angels, and they've all given you a name to call them by. So we have because we have Angie and George, Frederica and Newton, each with their own personality. Because we could say they've got their own characteristics, their own way of speaking and sharing, and their own different elements of a message. So who came to you first, I suppose, or did all 4 start trying to talk to you at one time, or how did that evolve?
No, they actually came in the order that I wrote them in.
Okay.
That's what happened. They just came in that order. And actually, I talk to George now a lot more. He's the talker. I was looking at some of my notes because I go on retreat to actually sort of be alone and communicate with them more easily, or more focused communication. And I noticed in my notes, George is there a lot. So I guess, you know, he's quite a talker, as he said. But yeah, so they came in the order I wrote them in. I actually was in Sydney. I just sat down and every day I just wrote. And that was that. So yeah.
So it's, I mean, I think it's a fascinating experience to have that some sort of communication with an entity that you can't see. I totally get it, totally believe in it. It's, you know, I know that I have communication beyond the physical realm here. So, you know, so I can understand that. I mean, for some people it may be skeptical. We're not here to try and convince you, you know, I suppose that's the thing, is read stuff, read something, listen, tune in and make up your own mind. So tell us a little bit then about how their energy differs. So Angie, how would Angie come across, and what is it she really wants to kind of really get across?
Well, I think you actually picked that up better than I did, honestly. And I was looking for that email you sent me about that, and I couldn't find it. It was very frustrating. But because I thought you actually had them down very well. I don't quite see them the same way. I see them as a continuum in a way. And so I don't, I see George as being, you know, more talkative and more good about focused on helping the earth. I see Newton as more of a scientific type. And I see Frederica and Angie, they're both very loving. So I guess I didn't quite, you know, I haven't quite differentiated them as much, just more loving, as loving beings. But all of them have in common the concept of us helping ourselves and helping the earth. and that we are powerful, and that we can do that in very small ways that we don't realize make a difference.
Yeah.
And so each of them has very simple, actually short meditations. And being human and being trained that we don't have any power and that we aren't able to do things and we're not strong and blah, 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 and all the stories we get fed, we don't realize that some of these simple things can make a huge difference, because we're electromagnetic beings. In other words, we send out frequencies all the time with our thoughts and who we are. And when we send out frequencies, they're limitless. And so when we do some visualizations and do some meditations and intention for the good of all and to help, that message and that frequency goes out both to the earth and the ether and to whoever we're near or not near.
Yeah.
When I did feng shui, I never got into that, but then I actually studied feng shui and consulted in that for 20 years. And the geopathics that I would do dowsing for geopathics, which are negative energy from the earth for people, that can go 30 stories up in a building. And that's what people, even though they're so aware of radio frequencies and Wi-Fi and this and that, you don't see them, but they have this effect. What they don't realize is that we also have that effect. We are a frequency as well. And that all these meditations we do have an effect. So that's, I think, part of the message. And as well as the short meditations and focuses to encourage us.
Yeah.
Because we need encouragement, I think.
Well, we all do. And you mentioned earlier, Lydia, didn't you, about we are bombarded by the media and particularly right at this minute. I mean, the fear that is around. I mean, it's horrendous. I mean, my daughter is really, really struggling. There's a lot of people in absolute terror at the moment of what could happen because of circumstances in other parts of the world, and that fear energy. We're bombarded with all these messages and images and everything else, and people take that on board, and we're emitting those frequencies then of fear and anger and hate and and all of that stuff. And there's been so many experiments done in I loved the whole Masamuro Emoto's experiments that he did around water and how that looks. So if you the water crystal that are crystallized in ice, how they look if they've been spoken to with kindness and love and compassion, as opposed to being shouted at and anger and fear, and how different that looks. So you can see from those, those are only a minor experiment of the impact of our thoughts and our voice and whatever there. So absolutely need reminded. We definitely need reminded that we are also then powerful and can emit more positive frequencies, calming energy, having an impact that we can share. And that the more of us who, I suppose, the more times we are reminded, the more people who actually get on board and just try something. Because that it can feel different for yourself. You can shift your own state of how you're feeling, and then recognizing that you can have that impact. And I loved that their words, for the good of all. If we're thinking of any actions that we're taking, and it's something that I've now got written down here every now and again to look at, and it is taking action for the good of all. So, bless you.
Excuse me. Too much apple pie for lunch.
So I think it's
John made a great apple pie.
And no blueberries then? Was like, just yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Lydia,
but I think you're right. I think that
sorry, I was going to say you were harvesting blueberries as well recently. So
oh yes, yeah, we're finished. Thank God.
So we've got this idea then that your angels. You're right. Do you want to go get some water? Are you okay?
Yeah, I think I'll be all right in a minute. There's just something in my throat. Anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
So we have these 4 angels sharing messages to help support us and the earth for the good of all. I mean, that's the essence of what they've been sharing. And I think that it would be really good to then have you share a little bit of, if we could hear a little snippet from each of them, perhaps, that you could, if you're able to share, that would be really good.
Yeah, I've got them tagged.
Excellent.
Of
I'll
course.
just unpin myself in the video here just so we concentrate on you. So
great. Okay, the first one is Angie, because she's chapter 1. And I asked Angie, why are you interacting with me? And she says, there are many people on the planet who are growing curious about the other realms of existence. Not in a religious sense that has been organized and defined for many groups. People want to go beyond the defined boundaries. They are becoming curious. Part of this curiosity is inevitable with the rapid changes in the society, population growth, and planetary changes. There are many answers to the questions people ask in the media and internet, almost as many answers as questions. This in itself can be confusing and even discouraging if one wants a definite answer. So often, what is definite for one person is not for another, hence the many options that are available. We simply want to give another positive opinion, something that some people can resonate with, others may not, information that makes sense to people. It will help them to come to grips with both themselves and their changing world. We hope to add some positive and beneficial thoughts and encouragement to those who resonate with our message. There are so many wonderful books and messages being poured onto the planet. These are here to give balance to a rapidly changing world. You have so much information, positive and sometimes discouraging, which plays a part in creating your reality on Earth. So that's Angie, a bit of Angie. And then we're going to go on to George. And the chapter is George's Answers on Helping Mother Earth. And he cites various meditations and thoughts that, can take a few minutes to do. And so another arena to help yourself and Mother Earth. Many of you have been focused on creating a better life for yourself in a spiritual and physical sense. Some have focused more on the physical and some more on the spiritual. Since you are embodied, they are both important aspects of your being. It is no fun with a body that does not do well, has much pain, and feels restricted. On the other hand, if you focus all your energies on comfort, which, by the way, is always over the other hill, then the spiritual aspects and appreciation that give you joy can be missing. This in turn leads to a life that can be easily influenced by the temptation of material gain over the well-being of those around you. That is how the choices are often viewed in your society. There is a sense of lack, so that if you gain something, it must be at the expense of others. This leads to much sadness for all concerned, including the one who gains. They have acquired the material gain, but then lack the security of the soul and often mistrust those around them. So they are never secure, either mentally or physically. It is quite a catch-22 when you believe in a scarce universe. When you realize that there is always more that can be created, you are free to help others and interact with them in a way that benefits you both. The soul is smiling. This is the most efficient way for you to be, with a smiling soul. Now we go to, there we are. I tagged them. This is Frederica's answers. The question I asked, what are the steps in the process of sending mental requests? This was something that she talked about earlier, mental requests. You are the main step. Here is a recommended sequence to use. First and foremost, you need to be clear on your intention. It needs to be something you wish for with emotion and that you do consider for the good of all, not something that is mainly motivated to give you or your friends financial gain or be used primarily to gain attention for your egos. Next, reserve judgment on the acts and outcome, leaving it to the God of all that is. Be unattached, an emotional level, be unattached on an emotional level to the outcome of the request. The final stage is to know that you have contributed to the good of all and thank all those unknown beings and people who have contributed to your desires. When you do this, you are coming from your higher God self to the higher God self of the people concerned who are creating the circumstances you want to influence for the good of all. Once you have prepared yourself, it is easy. Your pure heart will do the rest. Think of what you would like to create in the current situation. For example, you have heard that dolphins are being caught in the tuna nets. Sit down and for 5 minutes a day, see that this is not happening. A solution has been found by someone somewhere. Eventually, you will hear the solution in the news, and being human, will not be sure if you helped at all or if it was just coincidence. You have a saying that there are no coincidences. It is something to keep in mind. Then the last one is Newton. Okay, this is a short. I'm just doing a short one with Newton. How can we help heal the earth? That's my question. And he says, every morning before you get up, lie in bed and think of the wonderful earth below you. Thank it and send it love to the heart of the earth. It only takes seconds and it means a lot to you and the earth. Among other things, it will give you a sense of balance and grounding. There are support groups that are intent on helping the earth deal with the amount of human refuge and needs. Let me see. Okay, I'll read it. Have we got time? Yeah, we got time? Yeah, okay. Do not make fun of them. They are coming from a difficult place in a society that calls survival 2 cars, a large house, and utilities to match. It is not that these things are bad. It is just that they need to be constructed and powered in a way which is the least damaging for the earth rather than the most profitable for large groups. Create a society in a way that uses your talents joyfully and in tune with the earth. Send messages of joy and love to the earth. This you do by being joyful and loving. You are lightning rods that channel energy to the earth. There is much incentive to channel happy, grateful, and trusting energy to the earth for both you and the earth. Remember the sun in the morning Be grateful that the sun is the father of your world, working at evaporating water and keeping you warm. Whether you see it or not during the day, it is there shining on your earth. It would be a cold word indeed if the sun did not shine on you. He says, in summary, recognize the earth as a being, acknowledge what she does for you, be grateful for all you have and what she has given you. In the same way, recognize the sun, the life-giving force of the yin to the earth's yang, yang to the earth's yin, band together to encourage politicians and companies to create earth-friendly products on a physical level. Use your thoughts and abilities to manifest on the frequency level in order to shift the world into a more viable planet for the 7.8 billion plus people on the earth. And it's amazing, the population of the earth has doubled since 1970. That's like 50 years. It's doubled. It just amazes me. And we haven't kept up with all our trash and all our excrement and all our other stuff. I mean, it's amazing. But anyway, yes, that's aside.
Thank you for sharing that wisdom. I mean, I could see faces again, just sitting, enthralled and writing notes. And so, if anybody has any questions, by all means, put something in the chat. And we can ask Lydia some more questions if anybody's got some. So I think, I think it was Frederick who was challenging us to let go of our expectations of outcome, and that's a very difficult human thing to say. From speaking from personal experience here, because we do get, certainly I get, attached to what you want to achieve. It's so.
But see, that's why I use the phrase "for the good of all." Because I have no concept of all it involves. Like, I wanted my road bitumenized to the farm.
Yeah.
And what that involves to manifest that on all sorts of levels, I have no idea. So I always use that phrase to cover all the unknowns and to lose my attachment, because the attachment is a really hard thing, because if you weren't interested in something, you wouldn't be wanting to manifest it. So the attachment is there.
And maybe that's why we're still, earthly beings, and we're not in the angelic realm then, because we've still got stuff to work on. So that's
actually, I think that we go back and forth. I think we're here because we want to experience this, and other times we are in the spirit, what we call the spirit arena, and that this has certain things we want. So, I don't know. I think I'm pretty sure we go do other things. Maybe we're talking to somebody else on some other planet,
Yeah. I mean, people often say I'm wired to the moon, so yeah, exactly. And that's and I think for me, the notion of all of this is for people who are just say, oh, could this be true, or could I do this and have an impact? That idea of, well, what if it, for me, whenever I'm challenged by something, I say to myself, so what if this were true for me? So you can actually, it's almost like putting on a coat. So you can put on that coat to say, okay, so I could believe that if I did do these meditations, if I did sit still and tune into this energy, if I shone out that, that feeling of peace and calm and whatever you want to actually influence, like you say, trying to, can you think we couldn't influence our politicians in another way and not just being like so physical head to head sort of stuff? So if I take on that coat and say, what would that belief, what would it feel like for me? How would I react then? How would I be different? and that's been my journey, I would say, through all my spiritual, we're not here to talk about all my spiritual experiences. That might be another podcast episode. But yeah, I think that's maybe something for for people that are watching this, is just, if this is all new to you, just almost kind of try on the coat of if I were to step into this role, how would it be? How would I be different? And see what would happen. And I think we could all have a greater influence than perhaps.
That's a good way of putting it, actually, I think.
So
yeah, it's a nice way to put it. Yeah.
Yep. So I think maybe I'm getting a little message. Yeah, I'm getting a few messages tuned into me as well. So I don't know. I haven't got any messages in the chat. I'm
on the call, John.
we get time differences. He's going, where are you? So where can people get in touch with you? We will tell them where they can come and get in touch with you. I do want to share something before we kind of give your website address out and stuff. Is that Lydia is actually going to be in Largs with me in April, and we are hoping now. Sheila King's on the call. Sheila, I know you're not that far away. We must manage to get you coming down. So we're looking to book a venue on the Monday, the 11th, I think it is, the 11th of April.
Yes.
And to us a live in person. So look out, it'll be coming out soon. A live in-person event where we're going to be delving into all things angel communications and spiritual chat and all sorts of stuff in Largs, in a venue to be decided. Maybe Nardini's ice cream shop. That might be a good one. So Lydia's actually travelling all the way from Chile. She's going to be at the London Book Fair, first of all, giving some talks at the London Book Fair, and then graciously decided that she would just come up and spend a weekend in Largs here with us. And I thought, what a better way could we possibly have than actually to meet in person, because we really have, I think from the first time that we spoke, we just totally clicked. And it's been a joy for me to get to know you and get to know these angels through your work. And I think that we can hopefully just share lots more, on a night where we could get here and get people to kind of come and be in the room with us. So that's exciting.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it very much. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. But if you can't come to Largs, and why not? I would say it's not that. Why can't you come to Largs? if Lydia can come all the way from Chile to come to Largs, then that's it. We could give you all the hotels listings and stuff for everybody to come and have a weekend in Largs. Then they can catch you on, well, you've got your website, I suppose, and yes. I'll put a little link up here actually in the chat. That's probably. But where else is there anywhere else that you actually kind of communicate?
I have Lydia Anne Mitchell Facebook page, and Lydia Mitchell my page. I'm still learning Facebook. I promise I'm going to do it more soon, but I haven't been that good about it. But I do have a page, and I do have blogs that I post on the pages. So I do post on my pages as well. But I want to organise it more. So that's to come. But Instagram too. I have an Instagram account, Lydia Anne Mitchell Instagram too. So I've put up your website in the chat there for everybody, so they can, at least they can, because they can go there and they can see lots of things and other things that you've been around and find you there. And I absolutely love this. I love this book. I just think it's great. Angel Messages from the Heart Nebula. Here we are. And it's got a great cover and publisher too.
Thank you. Yeah, we've loved it. It's been a joy, absolute joy. So we are going to share more. We'll have lots more stuff to kind of share about Lydia's work and what she's doing with all these communications and more things for the good of all. Because I think if everybody can actually focus on that, then that's got to be the best. So. And Kathy's just said, thank you so much. Love to Lydia from Kathy. There you are.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for coming. That was so nice of you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So, as is quite customary for us at our sort of book launch events and things that we do like you to just unmute yourself for a little minute, give Lydia a little cheer. It'll all be a bit chaotic noise-wise, but I think it's the best that we can do. So if you want to unmute yourself and we can give her all a little bit. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.